Hey there. You ready for a deep dive into a book that could totally change how you see challenges? We're diving into The Obstacles is the Way by Ryan Holiday today.
Yeah, this book digs into this idea from Stoic philosophy that obstacles, those roadblocks we deal with, can actually be the way to something greater.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little skeptical. I mean, how can a problem be the solution?
Right, it's not that the problem just like magically transforms, but it's more about how we're choosing to see it and how we react to it. The Stoics believed that we can't always control what happens to us in life, but we're totally in control of how we respond.
So it's really about mindset more than anything else.
Exactly. It's like switching from feeling overwhelmed and defeated by a problem and instead seeing it as a chance to grow and build resilience.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But how do we actually do that? I mean, is there
Well,
some kind of like stoic instruction manual for turning roadblocks into stepping stones?
well, Ryan Holiday lays out a framework in the book based on three key disciplines: perception, action, and will. And he gives all these examples to show what he means, from ancient philosophers to modern day people we all know.
I love some practical advice, especially with good examples. Let's get into those disciplines. What's the first one? Perception.
Perception is all about how we're choosing to see that obstacle. Do we let it just like consume us with negativity, or do we try to find the opportunity that's hidden inside the challenge?
It's like that saying, you can't control the waves, but you can learn to surf.
hmm
But, and maybe this is just me being cynical, but is it really possible to think that way when you're in the middle of some kind of crisis?
It definitely takes practice, for sure. But Holiday uses the example of John D. Rockefeller, who saw the Panic of 1857, which was a huge economic crisis, as an opportunity.
Wait, really? Most people would be freaking out. What did he do?
He didn't panic, and instead he used that time to study the markets and really understand how they worked, especially under pressure. It's like he used it as a crash course in finance, and it became like the foundation for all his success.
Wow, talk about turning a crisis into a learning experience. That's a really good example of how important our perception of a situation can be. But let's say we've managed to kind of adjust our mindset. What's next? That's where action comes in, right?
You got it.
Mm.
Stoicism is all about taking action, putting in the work even when it's hard. It's not enough to just think differently. We got to act differently too.
Walk the walk, not just talk the talk. Do you have any good examples from the book about this?
Yeah, Holiday tells the story about Demosthenes, this ancient Athenian who dreamed of being a great orator. But the problem was he had a really bad speech impediment.
Oh, wow. That is a tough one. I can barely handle speaking in front of a group without a speech impediment.
Right. But Demosthenes didn't give up. Instead, he practiced all the time. He would even put pebbles in his mouth to try to improve how he said words. He turned his biggest weakness into his biggest strength, and he became one of the most famous orators in history.
Now that's dedication. Makes you realize that we all have those moments where we want to give up on something.
Yeah.
But what if instead we channel our inner Demosthenes and just keep pushing forward? What's that third discipline, the one that helps us deal with those moments when giving up seems like the only option?
That's where will comes in, that unshakable inner strength. It's about accepting what we can't control and focusing our energy on what we can.
So it's about controlling our reactions even when everything feels chaotic.
Yeah. And there's no better example of this than Thomas Edison. Imagine working so hard to build a business and then a massive fire rips through your whole factory. I mean, most people would just be devastated, but not Edison. He watched his life's work go up in flames, and he just calmly says to his son, "Go get your mother. She'll never see a fire like this again."
That's just incredible. Instead of focusing on everything he lost, he found a way to see something positive, something unique in this tragic situation.
Exactly. That's what a strong will can do. It doesn't mean we have to like pretend bad things aren't happening, but it's about using those feelings in a constructive way, using them to fuel your actions.
Hmm.
Remember what the Stoics said, what hurts instructs.
Oh man, that one hits close to home.
Yeah.
Anyone else feel like life's been giving out a lot of those instructive moments lately? But in all seriousness, that quote is a good reminder that even when things are really tough, we can still learn valuable lessons. So we talked about perception, action, and will. How do those disciplines actually play out in real life, outside of these extraordinary historical figures?
I think that's what's so cool about this book, The Obstacle is the Way, is that it's full of examples, not just of famous people, but everyday people facing everyday challenges.
Okay, so give me an example. Like, how about someone who's trying to make it in a really competitive field? How would they see things through the lens of these Stoic disciplines?
Oh, perfect example. Think about Amelia Earhart. She wanted to fly planes at a time when women were basically told to stay on the ground, literally Talk about an obstacle.
Yeah, talk about some serious headwinds. So
Yeah.
how did she do it? Did she just ignore all the negativity?
Oh, she definitely encountered negativity, but she didn't let it stop her. She got strategic. She used something that other people might have seen as a setback, being hired as a passenger on this transatlantic flight, and she used it to her advantage. Sure, it was a publicity stunt, but it gave her a platform to launch her own career as a pilot.
So she used action and a little bit of clever maneuvering to get over a huge obstacle. That takes some serious vision. But what about when we're facing those situations that just seem impossible, when even the strongest will is tested?
That's where the idea of amor fati comes in.
More fati. Okay. I'm going to need you to break that one down for me. It sounds pretty intense to love everything that happens to you, even the bad stuff.
It's definitely a radical idea, and it's not about pretending that difficult things are easy or even enjoyable. It's more about shifting our perspective. Instead of asking, why me, it's asking, what now? It's about finding the meaning and even the opportunity in the middle of all the chaos.
So instead of freaking out when our flight gets canceled, we should be like, amazing, now I can finally finish that book I've been meaning to read. Am I getting it?
You're totally on the right track. It's about recognizing that even when it feels like we have bad luck, there's a chance to learn and grow and become more resilient.
So like with Edison, he didn't just see a burnt-down factory, he saw the most epic bonfire ever.
Yeah.
He embraced what happened and even found a little bit of humor in it.
Exactly. And that, I think, is a big part of amor fati. It's not about denying that a situation is hard, but about facing it with a sense of, resilience and maybe even a little grace, just like Edison did.
It sounds like amor fati is all about like finding that inner peace, even when everything's falling apart around you.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's definitely not easy, but even taking small steps toward that kind of acceptance can make a difference.
So how do we actually start putting all of this into practice in our regular lives? Should we all be walking around with like a copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and practicing our best Stoic expressions?
Well, a little Stoic wisdom never hurt anybody, but really it's about recognizing those everyday obstacles as chances to practice those disciplines. Perception, action, will. The more we can work on our mindset, take action even when we're afraid, and build up that resilience, the more prepared we'll be for whatever life throws at us.
It's like working out a muscle, right? The more we use it, the stronger it gets. What are some like practical things people can take away from the obstacle is the way and start using today?
One of the biggest takeaways is to be really self-aware. Pay attention to how you naturally react to those initial thoughts and feelings. Once you know what your patterns are, you can start to choose a different way to react, one that uses those Stoic principles.
So instead of immediately freaking out when something goes wrong, we can try to hit the pause button and ask ourselves, how can I use this to learn and grow?
Exactly. And don't get discouraged if it feels weird at first. Remember, even those Stoic masters were beginners once.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. I'm feeling inspired to look at my own obstacles in a new way and see if I can find the opportunity within the challenge. What about you? What was your favorite takeaway from The Obstacle is the Way?
Honestly, this whole book is full of great takeaways, but if I had to choose just one, I think it would be how much it focuses on what we can control. It's such a simple idea, but so powerful when you really get it. It's a good reminder that even in the middle of chaos, we still get to choose how we respond.
I love that. And it's a really empowering message. Well, this has been an awesome deep dive into The Obstacle is the Way. If you're ready to change your perspective on challenges and embrace the Stoic philosophy, you should definitely check out the book. It's got even more historical stories, practical advice, and yes, even more wisdom from Marcus Aurelius. Don't forget to let us know in the comments what your biggest takeaway was. We love hearing from you. Until next time, embrace the obstacle.